Good morning from Fast Company. Here's our daily look into what's driving today's creative business leaders. Question: how do I ask someone to be a reference, and who should I pick? Answer: choosing the right reference is a really important part of the job hunting process. The right person saying the right things about you can tip the scales in your favor if a hiring manager is trying to decide between you and another candidate. Don't put all of your eggs in one basket. My first piece of advice is to have more than one person in mind. Like a lot of things in life, it's good to diversify your portfolio. If you have one person you want to be your reference, what will you do if they say no? Even if that one person says yes, chances are you are applying for more than one role. How eager do you think they'll be to give quality feedback the 10th time they are asked? Can one person really speak to everything you may want to highlight for a potential employer? So rather than starting with one person in mind, make a list of the top 5 people you might ask. Who to ask? As Fast Company contributor Jill Goldenziel pointed out in a recent article about asking for a recommendation, your recommenders should be people who know you well. It's more important to have your direct supervisor than a CEO or a professor who graded 4 of your papers rather than a Nobel Prize winner who lectured at your school, she said. The reference is about you, not about how impressive your recommender is. When deciding who to ask, you can also think outside of the norm. Most people think of managers and professors as the go-tos for recommendations, but chances are your colleagues and peers might have more valuable insight and know your work more closely. In search of a more honest view of your work, hiring managers will do this legwork themselves by looking up your former colleagues on LinkedIn and reaching out. There are other bonuses to asking a colleague to be a reference. 1, they likely aren't asked to give references as frequently, so they might be more apt to say yes. 2, if you are applying for a job while still employed and you trust them, you can have someone who can speak to your current job performance. How to ask. The most important thing to do is make it as easy as possible for your reference. Start by giving as much lead time as possible. Reach out a few weeks in advance, especially if you're asking for a written recommendation. If it's been a while since you've spoken to them, don't jump right into the ask and make sure to reestablish the connection first. It's also important to give them as much information as possible so they feel prepared. If you're switching careers or if the roles you are applying for focus on a particular skill, let your reference know so they know what to highlight. Once you get a yes from a few of the people on your list, be sure to rotate through them for different applications so you don't tire anyone out. And don't forget to say thank you. I've covered my stance on the post-interview thank you note in the past. It's just as important to follow up with a thank you to your references each time they are contacted. They are undeniably doing you a favor that they are not obligated to or paid for. They may be the key to your next move. The least you can do is send them a few sentences saying thank you. That's all today from Fast Company. Talk to you tomorrow.
SpokenLayer.